It's been a war of words, some very undiplomatic among some of the world leaders at the Munich Security Conference, which ended last Sunday. The meeting, usually aimed at settling some of the difficult diplomatic disagreements, was not quite the same this year. Instead, it appears to have sullied some bilateral relationships even further, as Iran and Israel, for example, threw jabs at each other, and Russia's foreign minister rubbished American post-election FBI reports indicting Russians for interference in the U.S. electoral system. We'll focus, however, on what's being said on Africa. But first, let's get a summary of the security conference so far. Political correspondent with our partners DW is Thomas Sparrow, and as usual, he joins me all the way from Germany. Hello, Thomas. Give us a bit of a detail.
Nice to be there with you.
Right, nice to have you back on our screens as well. But give us a bit of a detailed highlight of the security conference so far.
Well, the key issues were the ones that you yourself mentioned, Gifty, all those different confrontations worldwide. If there's one key summary, one key element that I could take from the Munich Security Conference, which, as you know, I covered in Munich, is that there are conflicts basically in every region in the world. There are security challenges in every region in the world, and there is a need, really a big need, to discuss those conflicts, to try and discuss how those challenges are really international challenges and how to find international cooperation, although in most cases there are also particular elements of a certain country or a certain region that became certainly evident there at the Munich Security Conference, where a wide range of topics were discussed, from nuclear security to armed conflicts to environmental problems to cyber security, and then obviously region-specific issues, including obviously the topic of security in Africa. So this conference reflected the desperate need to discuss and to find solutions. Even the chairman of the Munich Security Conference, in his own comments afterwards, he said that it was time over for speeches, it was time now for decisions, and then he also said that there were some nice words expressed during the conference, but too many aggressive ones, and that was, in his opinion, pretty gloomy. So you can see that despite the fact that there was some dialogue, there was certainly a lot of confrontation and a lot of debate. And it'll be interesting to see how that all ends. But let's focus a bit more on Africa. Were there any outstanding outcomes on security in Africa? Africa played an important role in the security conference in Munich. In fact, we spoke about that last week with the presence of different presidents, different politicians of the African country. There was one particular block of the conference there in order to discuss the situation in the Sahel region. It included, for example, the president of Burkina Faso, the president of Rwanda, the foreign affairs minister of Mali, also the African Union chairperson whom we interviewed, and certainly these specific aspects of the region were discussed. I wouldn't say there was a key outcome of that. It was more the need to be at the same table, discuss these different issues, see how the international community can also cooperate here, because this is one very important aspect there, and also see what the countries in the Sahel have achieved so far and what still has to be achieved. So it was more of a matter of presenting the panorama of what security challenges this region faces, because it's important to stress that there are many security challenges in this region. That's something that also became evident during the Munich Security Conference.
And speaking of the Sahel region, we understand that there's going to be a high-powered meeting as well, and I'm sure that Boko Haram in Nigeria will feature quite prominently. What else will be discussed there?
Well, certainly, there was this meeting in Munich to discuss the Sahel with some of the regional leaders. The next chapter of this situation is also here in Europe this week on the 23rd of February in Brussels. There will be the next big discussion about the Sahel, and in particular about security and development in the Sahel region, and what the European Union and certain countries within the European Union can do and have been doing to try and help the countries there. They see some of the challenges in the Sahel region as challenges that go beyond the borders of one specific country and that are certainly affecting all of them as a whole. And certainly Germany, from that perspective, also believes that it is particularly important to work together with the countries in the region. Germany has also spoken about financial assistance, about logistical assistance to the countries in the region, understanding that the challenges there are particularly important and that there could even be spillover effects within the African continent and also in Europe as well, if this situation, if these challenges are not confronted in a very concrete and precise way.
That's very true. That's very true. But Thomas, let me wrap up with you on this. So you've been speaking to the African Union Commission's chairperson, Moussa Faki. What's he been telling you?
Well, Moussa Faki was one of the members of this panel in Munich that we spoke about. We caught up with him. We interviewed him on the sidelines of the Munich Security Conference, talking about some of the key challenges in Africa. You will hear a clip of that interview that we conducted in Munich. We also obviously asked him about the sort of obvious topic that unites Africa and Europe, one that you and I, Gifty, have spoken on various occasions, the issue of migration. And he also stressed the importance of focusing on the young generations. He said migration is a consequence, not a cause, and the international community as a whole should focus on fighting the causes of migration, whether it is poverty, whether it is war, whether it is climate change. All those issues are issues that the international community as a whole, and then obviously the affected countries and regions as well, should focus on in order to try and give young generations opportunities and make sure in some way that they don't feel the need to leave the countries of origin. That was one of the topics that we discussed with him, but there were other topics as well that he addressed during our interview a week ago in Munich, or last week in Munich.
All right, Thomas, thank you so much for that update, and thank you, because we know that you also bring us some updates as well going forward on the Brussels high-powered meeting on security in the Sahel region. Thomas Sparrow there with those highlights. We can now hear Moussa Faki, who is the chairperson for the African Union Commission.
L'Afrique est malheureusement aujourd'hui un des théâtres de l'insécurité, notamment avec les nouveaux phénomènes, les défis terroristes, que ce soit au niveau de Corne de l'Afrique, que ce soit au Sahel, que ce soit dans le bassin du lac Tchad et en Libye. Nous pensons que c'est un défi qui doit interpeller l'ensemble de la communauté internationale. Et donc nous souhaitons que les questions de paix et de sécurité ne soient pas traitées de manière indistincte. Le terrorisme est une menace à la paix et à la sécurité. L'extrémisme est une menace à la paix et à la sécurité dans le monde. Et nous souhaitons que l'ensemble de la communauté internationale puisse se mobiliser, comme elle l'a fait en Irak et en Syrie, pour pouvoir faire face à cette menace qui est réelle malheureusement dans le continent africain.